Okay, so we are recording and we are live on the Roadmap to Mental Wellness Facebook group. Welcome everyone, and so sorry we had some technical glitches with our Zoom, but we are live and we are recording. So if you are missing the live for that very reason, no worries, because we will send you the recording and we will have more of these events because we feel that it is so important for us moms, parents to kind of speak up regarding our kids' health and their mental health in particular. We are going through some, super stressful, uncertain times, and we are seeing our kids go through it as well. So super important to stay on top of their health, their mental health, and make sure that, they are just, doing as best as they can. And that's what we want as moms, right? We want our kids to do the best they can, and they do too, right? They want to make us proud and do, the best that they can with school, with sports, with social situations. They're just doing the best job they can. And if we as moms can give them the much needed tools, then I think they have a better chance to thrive and not just survive, right? So we are here to talk about some holistic solutions that have really worked for us and our kids. I have my big kid here today. This is Eamon. My name's Colleen Sullivan, and we also have Melissa on with us, as well as Janine Kelly. So I'm going to start by just kind of sharing a little bit about our story and our journey. And it started many, many, many years ago when this big guy was about 6 years old, and he was diagnosed with ADHD or ADD. And at the time, just receiving that diagnosis or label, it's daunting. It's really overwhelming as a parent. What do you do? What are the solutions? And at the time, I was not finding any real solutions that I wanted for my child. Every professional, every therapist, every teacher was really kind of pressuring me to put him on medication in order for him to succeed in school. So really kind of hesitating to go down that road, I did, because like every mom out there, we want our kids to succeed, right? So we went through the gamut of all the medications. This is, in elementary school, all the way through middle school. We tried every med on the market, mm-hmm. Probably. My cabinet was literally a pharmaceutical, a pharmacy. Mm-hmm. And with every medication came new problems, and also came huge side effects, and some of them were pretty harsh. No appetite, sleeplessness, a flattened personality. And this kid was animated. He was singing the Star Spangled Banner at his swim meets at the age of 6. That was his, his thing, is performing.
I had more things than that.
So, to see him just kind of struggling more on the meds than even his diagnosis was heartbreaking. I felt like I was failing him as a mom because I really didn't, I kind of lost my happy kid in the process, and all the struggle through school. And, I see other moms out there just trying to navigate this overwhelm, and it's heartbreaking. So we still kind of went down that path, and through middle school and high school, he I kind of want to say navigated when he needed the meds, because he really hated being on them. So I'll let Eamon kind of share a little bit about, how he felt and his journey in his own words.
Yeah. Okay. So hi, everyone. My name's Eamon. So I started taking medication, I think in the first grade. So all the way from there to pretty much high school, even in college. But once I became a little older, I was a little more capable of more things, but I still needed something to get me through it all. And back then there wasn't any type of holistic solution. There was only medication. That was the only thing physicians, doctors were pushing. And
I forgot to say one thing. At one point, Eamon was on a med to kind of get his brain to focus. The one thing that med was doing, but then he was on another med to help him go to sleep at night.
Yeah, just to de-wire my brain, because
so we were kind of treating the symptoms at that point
with another pharmaceutical drug, and that one didn't have that many sides, but that's besides the point. I was on medication and I hated it. It was terrible. I didn't feel like myself. Like you said, flattened personality. I had a lot of I had a lot of hobbies and interests, and a lot of those things just didn't seem that interesting to me, because the only thing I was worried about was getting my homework done. And so I started in first grade all the way through grade school, middle school. We tried I didn't even like taking pills, so that's a whole nother thing. We tried so many avenues of just taking the medication,
which was stress in itself.
That was stress in itself. Yeah. And then by the time I get to high school, we tried like lowering the dose, because I felt I didn't need as much dosage, and I would take a little bit in the morning, a little bit when I got home, just to that last final push to get my homework done for the next day. Then I would take the other medication just to settle down, because that stuff it makes you wired. And then I get to college. Woo, go Owls! And I had a vial of medication, and I decided, I'm going to use this sparingly. I don't have to be on this all the time. I want to have fun, but I want to get my work done. Obviously, you got to learn while you're at college, but I want to be myself. This is a time where I can be myself, figure myself out. And,
but that made things hard too, because you have to work that much harder, like that's where I was seeing, like, even as a young child, like, just to get the simplest thing done, it just took a long time and a struggle. And
and that didn't change in college. And a paper that should have taken, like a paper that I should have written over a week, I would have to give myself 2 weeks, because that's just how I roll. But anyway.
Fast forward,
I run out of medication, and you know what? I don't want it anymore. I don't want to go see the doctor and get my prescription filled, because I'm done. I'm sick of it. So, and then my mom found Amari and she's like, look, you got to try this. And, I started off with like just the protein powders and the supplements and like the fundamentals.
Well, when I discovered this, and when I heard, all I had to hear was the gut-brain connection, and my eyes, my ears opened, because 15 years ago, I was looking for this. I was looking for the solution. I was researching the connection between the gut and the brain, and there was no solutions out there at the time. So that's when I came across this, I just lit up, because I'm like, this is what we were looking for.
Fast forward to senior year, I started the products, and I had the 2 best semesters of my whole college career. I got the best grades. I was just able to stay on top of everything. I had a part-time job. I was working like 30 hours a week.
In the restaurant business.
In the restaurant industry, which, as some of you might know, is not an easy task to keep your stress levels down. But I managed.
It's chaotic, right? And looking back at another job that you had in high school at a restaurant.
Oh, that was terrible. Oh my God.
What was your experience?
I'm not going to name the restaurant, because some people might know them. But my experience was I was just not able to stay on top of my tasks. It was just too crazy, and I would get scatterbrained, and I couldn't focus, and yeah, it was.
Now he's working at a very busy, restaurant in Center City, and even during this pandemic, they are busy, and you are keeping that place hum, right?
Yeah, if you want. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll leave the modesty at the door. It's I'm there a lot, and I'm really glad to be there. But anyway, it's hard, but it's a little easier now.
Yeah.
It's been hard.
Yeah.
That's in the past.
Yeah. Life has most certainly changed for me as a mom, you as, I think you just come back to life. And I like how you say that you are able to succeed, but be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I think that's the most important part.
Yeah. So that is our story. It's a little longer because there's two of us. I'm going to turn it over to Melissa, and she's going to share a little bit of her story with her 13-year-old Benjamin.
Yeah, and Eamon, I know you may have to go, so it's okay.
I do.
Go to work.
I have to skedaddle.
You're not being rude.
Thank you for having me, everyone. I'm sure I'll see you again.
And he's happy to answer any questions for any moms out there that have 20-year-olds or even any age.
You can message her, and she can get back to you with my answer.
Bye. Thanks, Eamon.
Yeah, so my son is a little younger. When we started to have some issues, he was 12. It was probably about 10 months ago. And I know I've shared this story with many people before, but my son was getting very anxious and overwhelmed at school. And it's interesting when you think about when something begins, it really probably began before that, right? So for my son, I really think that I started noticing changes in his ability to stress for probably a year. But, I didn't start to put the pieces together. And then it started to increasingly get worse and worse. And so last November, he did talk about taking his own life. And I don't know if it was I have this plan in a serious way, but regardless, it's serious, right? You always take those words and the world, stops. So he's a very small kid. He's on some other medication. He's always had kind of GI issues. He's not a great eater. And I just knew medication or pharmaceuticals would be a hard route for him. So like Colleen, I was searching for something else, another answer. And Colleen came to me with the answer. So thank you, Colleen. And we started him on this protocol, and that's what I'll describe it as. It's a protocol for your gut and your brain and the communication system in between. And that's really what we're talking about. And it was 3 to 4 weeks, and I saw a transformation. That's why I can be unequivocal in my confidence and share this, because I believe it saved him. So, if I don't share my story, then how are people going to know that there are other solutions out there, So Benjamin is a lot lighter. In terms of stress resilience, it's almost night and day. He still has to do things he doesn't want to do. He's 13. He's preparing for his bar mitzvah next month. He doesn't want to do a lot of things, right? He's an early teenager, but he does them with very little resistance. It's like 5 or 10 minutes, we have a conversation, and it's over. Whereas we used to have crying jags for hours, hours and hours. So his focus has changed too, and he always loved to focus on things he wanted to focus on, right? And that's kind of a key highlight of ADD kids, right? They actually hyper focus on the things they're interested in, and that was always true for him too. And so even subjects he's not interested in, which at this point is probably all of them, he does his work, he focuses, and then he moves on, right? There's not this constant battle and struggle. And that's really the amazing part. It's taken out that piece of our relationship. So I want to talk a little bit about the gut microbiome. And I know, Colleen, we've talked about this quite a bit. But just for people who are seeing this for the first time and hearing this for the first time, I started studying the science of this after Benjamin started the products that we're talking about, this microbiome protocol, because I have a very strong science background and I didn't have the time then to put in the study that I wanted to. And so after he started, I really took this deep dive. And it's unbelievable when we start to kind of uncover this ecology that resides within us. So we have this massive non-human ecosystem living within us. And 95% of it lives in our gut, in our large intestines. And this ecosystem is bacteria, viruses, protozoa, all these very small organisms. And what's really amazing is these organisms have been with us since the beginning, right? Since humans walked the earth, we had this ecosystem, this microbiome. So as we evolved as a species, they evolved along with us. So it's not simply that they're residents. They don't just live in us and take up space. We cannot live without them. Many of our functions of our human systems require the products that our microbiome or our microorganisms produce. So it's symbiotic. And when we talk about the vast kind of power that they hold, so in terms of cells, we're talking about 10% human, 90% bacterial or other cells, if you look at cells. But if you think about our genetics, our genes, we're about 1% human. 1% human. It's crazy. So there's like this 36 trillion species ecology kind of grinding away within us. And it actually has a huge impact on our mental wellness. So we kind of use these terms as verbiage, gut feeling, and it's absolutely true, right? Our gut absolutely talks to our brain, and in fact, in many ways, is our second brain. So it communicates with our brain through our immune system and these small cytokine immune molecules. It communicates through our endocrine system, influences our hormones, and through our nervous system. So we have this massive collection of nerves that surround the gut, our enteric nervous system, and they connect to the vagus nerve, which is like this two-way superhighway from your gut to your brain, sending back and forth signals. And so the last piece that I want to touch on before we start talking about the actual solutions is this idea of a second brain. So the first brain is the brain we think of in terms of cognition, right? Our cerebral cortex. I have a problem to solve and I am going to solve it using my brain, right? You have a math problem, whatever it is. Our second brain is really this ancient part of our brain, the hypothalamus, the amygdala. And this is the part of our brain that handles our stress response. So when we talk about cortisol and serotonin and all these other kind of mood modulating hormones and neurotransmitters, they're activating and influencing through this kind of more primal part of our brain that we don't have voluntary control over. And that's the key. You can't voluntarily get your way into a change of state, right? These are involuntary reactions happening. So our hypothalamus communicates to our pituitary and our adrenal glands to pump cortisol. And it doesn't matter really how much you meditate. And we've tried, Colleen, right? But at some point, there has to be a chemical reaction to move back to the hypothalamus to say, hey, it's okay, and start to lower cortisol back down. And the way that happens is through the biochemicals that are produced in our gut, our serotonin, our GABA. They communicate back to the hypothalamus, sending the message, it's okay, so that we can down-regulate our stress hormones. So there's a lot of ways that we can improve our mental wellness, natural solutions. So Colleen, you were going to share with us some of the herbs and spices that we can use kind of to help anxiety and focus.
Absolutely. And, before I even touch on that, real quick, I was always a parent that kind of instilled like physical wellness with my kids, like exercise, good nutrition. And that's still all so important as well. So our kids have to move, especially if you have some, kids with ADD, and they have to move so their body is more kind of a little exhausted, but their brain is still alert. And nutrition cannot even be more important for kids like that. The red dyes, the pesticides in our foods and everything, it's really important, but that's where the supplementation kind of fills in the gaps, right? And there are some other natural ingredients, spices, that some other countries turn to for first-line therapies. And some of those are New Zealand pine bark, theanine. Saffron is getting a huge look at right now. In clinical studies, it shows that it goes head to head with some antidepressants like Prozac, head to head with Ritalin, and is used in other countries. And, we're fortunate to have one of the leading biochemists, nutritionists, who has formulated these natural solutions, who has studied for decades these ingredients, these solutions that heal our gut, brain, and access. But these are some of the other ingredients that we wanted to touch on. The pine bark, the theanine, and the saffron is a huge one that's in one of our Kid Moods products. So with that being said, I wanted to kind of turn this back to Melissa. She has a couple more things to add to that.
Yeah, so I wanted to touch just for a moment on pharmaceuticals. And I don't want anyone to ever feel like there's a judgment when you decide to go a pharmaceutical route, because we're really just trying to make our kids well, right? And at some point we'll just do anything. So there's never a judgment on what you want to try. But it's really interesting when you start to understand kind of the diagnoses that we have, why pharmaceuticals are not necessarily a home run. And this is why. So when you have ADHD, they often will give you Ritalin, which is going to help increase, say, your norepinephrine so that you can focus, right? That's one neurochemical. If you're depressed, they might give you an SSRI like Prozac, and that's going to help increase the serotonin that your brain has available to it. And that might make you feel happier. But the issue is it's going to make you feel okay. It's not going to make you feel amazing, because to feel amazing, you need a balance of a whole wide range of neurochemicals, neurotransmitters, right? So it's not just norepinephrine. It's not just serotonin, right? We need GABA to feel calm. We need dopamine to feel motivated and want to get out of bed and take on the day. So you can bring up one neurochemical, but if you're not finding this intricate balance between them, you're never going to achieve this place of real thrive, right? You're not going to get there. And so by addressing kind of the root cause of this imbalance, it's going to help you really find a balance of these brain chemicals that we need. And the last thing I want to touch on is inflammation in the brain. So we know that chronic inflammation is basically a disease state in our body. It is chronic disease or chronic illness. And when we talk about these issues in our brain, anxiety, depression, ADHD, even as adults, you know, cognition issues, memory, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, there's a lot of inflammation in our brains, and they can see this, right? They are able to see kind of this inflammatory reaction. And part of that is because we don't have a blood-brain barrier that's sealed off. So a lot of noise, toxins, kind of, you know, just things in your bloodstream that shouldn't be getting to the brain are getting through the blood-brain barrier. And so we have this inflammatory reaction in our brain, and we can't think properly, and we have, you know, anxiety, and we feel stress. So there's a two-piece answer here, which is balancing our neurochemicals and reducing the inflammation in our brain. So that's my thoughts for today, Colleen.
Thank you to our resident science guru / geek, science nerd, Melissa. She's amazing. She just dives deep into this, and it's from in a very caring way because of you know what it's done for her son, right? So I wanted to just ask, we have Janine on the call. Before we open it up to any questions, I just wanted to get Janine's, you know, real kind of short view on what she sees in the school. She's a school nurse, and she has 5 kids, right, Janine? Oh, I think you're on mute, or we can't hear you. Oh, no, I can hear you now.
Okay. You got me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to, you know, from your take with your experience, just what you're kind of seeing with our adolescents and, you know, the struggles and, you know, how we can better equip them.
So for the past 14 years, I've been a school nurse at a private school on the main line. And what I have seen is, especially in the past 5 years, which really concerned me to the core, was just an uptick in anxiety-related symptoms. And I was also seeing it in my own children who were young adults and becoming teenagers, or young teenagers becoming young adults. And I was really just seeing it in the community and the environment. And why are we seeing so much stress going on? So it bothered me so much that actually it pushed me to go find answers. And I went back to school to study the reason behind this. And it's all of what we are talking about here, guys. But I've been able to piece it together. And the best way that I can say is there's an imbalance that has gone on, you know, within the past 10 years to 5 years, that has pervasively, slowly, and progressively gotten worse in our community. And specifically talking about the young adults and our adolescents, the way that they're struggling is very hard to pinpoint, right? Because you can focus on this is our generation who's grown up with their cell phones, right? Which is adding increased stress into their dynamic. This is a generation that's grown up. Many of them were babies when 9/11 happened. There's the stress and the fallout from that has impacted them on a vibrational level. So I can kind of geek out on why I think and what the research has said, what it's all pinned to. But when you look at what many of the kids are eating, and in my experience as a nurse, what they have been eating and what they're eating, some of them have got it, right? But some of them are coming in, meaning some of them have got it and they're nutritionally on point. Their parents have them on point. They're into a healthy diet. But I noticed that a majority of my students, and even my own kids, as much as I try to introduce and bring them good, healthy food, they will still opt out of that for the quick fix, the grab the grab and go, I'm going to grab a Starbucks. And they're trying to feel better with those comfort foods all the time. And it's affecting their microbiome that's already been impacted from the level of stress that they experience in their life that I know I didn't experience as an adolescent. They have layers on their stress that we don't even have time to get into. So, and then on top of it, they're making nutritional choices that many times aren't supporting their ability to cope with stress. And what is happening? We're dealing as parents with the fallout of this, right? We're seeing an uptick of ADHD coming through. We're seeing increased asthma. We're seeing more conditions, more food allergies. We're seeing increase in anxiety and depression out the wazoo. I saw it firsthand in my office with kids, feeling symptoms of anxiety more than anything else that they were coming into my office with, to be honest. And so I'm so glad that you guys are addressing this and we're having conversations about it, because more parents need to feel like there are people talking about it and there are real solutions out there. And we talked about there is a lifestyle piece that we can work on with these adolescents that I would love to continue conversations on, that I have been searching for and trying to figure out how to package this and bring it into schools and to parents, into a community, so that we can help support these adolescents and their stress. But what we are talking about with this nutrient protocol and the microbiome is real, honest, firsthand information that is cutting edge research. It's just within the past 2 years that we're figuring this missing link out. And it makes so much sense to me as a parent, because it pieces everything together. The entire system, our entire bodies, our children's entire bodies. We're all a product of our microbiome here, and how well that microbiome is working together, flourishing or not flourishing, is going to really impact how we feel and how our kids feel, how they focus, how they thrive, how they connect with other people. They're even wanting to connect with other people, right? Their mood. So if we have to look at it, these products will bring you to the next level. I've experienced it firsthand. My 16-year-old has been on the products. She feels a huge difference. We can talk about Abby, and I have a Michael who matches Colleen, your Amen story almost to the exact T, but he needs to get going on the products because he's kind of 21 and I'm too cool for that. But I'm telling you, it makes a huge difference. And the study of the microbiome, what these products do is they are nourishing. They're nourishing and helping these microbiome to wake up, become alive inside the body, so that they can do what they are meant to do inside our brains and inside our children's brains. And if we can help them figure this out, guys, at this young age, we're setting them up for success in their future. So thank you so much for letting me talk. And thank you, for having these conversations that have been in my heart for some time. So there you go.
Janine, I think you just kind of set us up for, that's a home run, because it's been everything you said has been on my mind to share with every mom, every parent out there. And, you touched on that nutrition piece. If we can get them their microbiomes in balance, they're going to want to start making those choices. And I tell you, it happened firsthand with my daughter, who was on this protocol. She's a sophomore in college. She doesn't have ADHD or anxiety or any of those other outsiding, contributors, but she was not the healthiest eater. And it was really concerning as a young lady. My daughter her food choices were really, really poor. And I was really worrying about her overall health, from the inside out, as just a health, guru. she is making the healthiest choices. I was just telling Beth, who's on this call, that was one thing I saw with hers, the stress resilience and her ability just to change her course with her nutrition choices. And that's all on her own. And it happened very subtly. It was not
Wow.
overnight, but she just makes better choices at college when I'm not around to kind of enforce it. And I noticed just a different in, healthy choices. So I think we're kind of running a little bit out of time. I know, Beth, you're on the call, and Debbie, you're on the call. And I know, Beth, what Janine said probably spoke really, really loudly to you. So if you wanted to say just a few words.
Yeah, I mean, Janine, that was great, really.
Yeah.
Why some kids have it, some kids don't, all this pressure, anxiety, stress, panic attacks. My daughter, probably age 16, started, God knows why, the stress of school, the stress of friends, the drama that goes on with these kids with their friend groups, the senior year of, not having any senior year things, the freshman year now, not being able to go to college, being in the basement, doing classes online. I didn't realize that how bad of a place she was in. And then I talked to Colleen, and she said, you know what? She probably needs help. And she's right. Did research, started on the products. And I'm subtly, 3 weeks in, I'm subtly seeing a change. The crying has stopped. The hibernation in her room has stopped. She's getting outside more. She's chatting with the rest of the family. She claims she doesn't see it, but you know what, as her mom, she's coming back to us. So again, making good food choices like Colleen's daughter. I can't wait to see where this takes me. This was a very short, abbreviated story, but I really can't. I'm excited where it's going to take us.
Awesome.
Awesome, Beth. I'm so glad. I think if there's any other people on the call, if you have any questions, I know we have Debbie on the call, but I think we're running a little bit out of time because we want to be cognizant of everyone's time. But Debbie has an autistic daughter who has studied the gut-brain connection since she was probably, 3 years old, Debbie? And she's 16 now.
She's 16 now.
Yeah. And Debbie's a firm believer, way back when she was going to a gut specialist, they had her on all sorts of different, separate supplements. And when I came to Debbie with this solution, she was just like, oh my God, it's all here. It's all here. So I don't know if you wanted to say a few words in closing, and then we'll have to kind of,
No, I was thrilled when you contacted me, Colleen, and it's like this whole system all together and ready to go. And also just a quick piggyback after to follow up from Janine, before I went into private into the schools, and I saw so much of the increase in anxiety and stress. So I know what you're seeing every day. And as far as the being autism mom, for me, it's been super helpful, and I love sharing it with other autism moms too, because one thing we forget to do, and I'm sure y'all can relate as mothers, is to take care of ourselves. And so I'm huge on self-care and mindfulness in my therapy with parents. So it's just, it's really helped me a great deal while it helps my daughter. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's the absolute truth. We're all moms that, care for our kids, want them to do their best, but they can only do their best if we're at our best, right? So that's another important piece to all this very overwhelming navigation of helping our kids. We have to hone in and take care of ourselves as well. So I think we're going to close out. This was a great discussion. Sorry for the little technical difficulties in the beginning. We'll get it better. We're going to be doing these on a monthly basis and bringing on different moms with different experiences. And, our mission is really just to put out the information and keep talking about it, right? We can't, like Janine, and Melissa, we can't stay silent when we found something that is so crucial to our kids' mental health and overall health, right? So thank you for being on with me, the ladies. I love seeing your beautiful faces. And
Thank
you're welcome. Thanks so much. And we'll see you again on the next call. And any questions, anyone on the call or listen to the replay, please reach out to whoever invited you, or, you know, however you found out about this, please reach out. We're here to support and answer any questions. Thanks, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye, Debbie.
you.
Bye. See y'all.